Hey everyone, welcome back to the main stage. Hope you enjoyed your little break and perhaps you watched that video that was just playing relating to language. So language is actually often the first thing that comes up in discussions about international talent in Finland. And often employers have a concern that with their first non-Finnish speaking employee, it's going to be really arduous and onerous. They're going to have to translate everything. It's going to be very expensive. It's going to affect the culture and stuff like that. So what we just heard on the break time was about some of the resources that exist to help international talent with Finnish language acquisition or Swedish language acquisition. But what we're doing in this session, about 20 minutes, is to check out the possibility of a hybrid path. So what if you have an international talent that doesn't speak Finnish in a Finnish environment? How could that work? And so in preparing today, we're very, very happy to meet Rupesh Kumar Soni and his manager Matti Esko-Järvenpää, both from the Finnish engineering company WSP, to talk about this language in a hybrid kind of a way. So right, Rupesh, shall we start with you? That would be wonderful to hear a little bit about how you found yourself working at WSP in Finland and how was your Finnish?
Yes, thank you, Emma. Hello, everyone. It was really nice to share my story here. My name is Rupesh Kumar, and I come from India. I have finished my master's in structural engineering from DTU Copenhagen. And I came to know about one of these roles in which our team here in WSP Finland was also collaborating with Indian office, and this is one of the best platform to bridge the cultural gap between India and Finland. So I came and I joined this team, and it's going good in terms of all the projects and these things, and I'm very happy here, even though I hardly speak Finnish, but how my teams are helping me over here, it's like one of the very great example to even though if I'm not from Finland. And for your answer for this thing, like my Finnish is, I'm taking baby steps. I know that Finnish is one of the toughest language, and I'm taking baby steps, and I'm going through with like slowly. I'm not taking it as a burden, but I'm improving it slowly. Yes. Yes.
And Matti Esko, how did you, well, you might want to say a few words about WSP so that we know what kind of a corporate environment we're talking about here.
Yeah, hello everyone. A couple of words I will say about our company. You can probably see now. So here, for example, on the first slide, you'll see the Crown Bridge, which is Kruunusilla. This is one of our projects. The people who are from Helsinki surely know this, and then will for sure see this then when this appears in the skyline during the coming years. So what we are actually a multidisciplinary company. We're called WSP Finland. We are around 700 here in Finland in all the cities, and what we do engineering for the built environment and consulting services. We have pretty much all the fields, such things. So myself, I have a buildings and bridges background. I am a structural engineer as my origin, and so is Rupesh. So we are dealing in this field now. So this was briefly about our company.
Great. Well, as you had a picture of a bridge, let's bridge back into language. Oh, I love the pun. And hear about how was it, Matti Esko, that you came to hire Rupesh?
Yeah, we actually came to hire Rupesh. Rupesh had been to Finland already some years ago, and there was one in our company, in our office in Vaasa. There was a colleague of mine who knew Rupesh and was in contact with Rupesh every now and then. And then he knew that Rupesh was studying in Denmark. So and he had a suitable degree, really good, nice master's degree from the University of Copenhagen. So first, immediately we thought, this is the kind of guy we need. And we didn't really see the like him being from outside of Finland as a barrier. So that's how we thought. Of course, like back in spring, when Corona first started, times were really tough. It also affected our business quite a lot. So it was a little bit like, how to get all these things sorted out. And then there were all kinds of things like, Rupesh couldn't come back from Denmark to Finland. He had to first actually start working there for our projects. And then finally, because we hired him first place in March, April. But finally in summertime, Rupesh was able to move to Finland. So.
Well, one thing I pick up from that is the importance of networks. It was a network that brought Rupesh's existence to your attention. So encouragement, listeners, get into those one-to-ones. You can listen to this recording later if you want to just jump in there now. Very important. And I'm very struck, Matti Esko, that you didn't see language as a barrier. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Well, yeah, of course, like a lot of our projects, or some of our projects, are international. So there, of course, the communication is done in English. Documents are in English. So there is not the problem at all. But then, of course, like a majority of our work is domestic here in Finnish with the Finnish clients. So yeah, that's then. So, but that, like, still, if you talk about engineering, all the figures like a Sigma has the same sign and doesn't really matter in the language. So really that is, we don't see it as an obstacle at all. And here in Finland, people are really skilled with the English language. Some might be a little bit shy to begin with that. So really, that is like the least of the problem.
Have you ever had a client saying, we only want Finnish speakers on our project?
Sometimes, but not really. It might be sometimes, maybe, yeah, client might say that this project manager needs to be Finnish speaking, but that is maybe only in some of the cases where you might have a public authority, where it's kind of like still a little bit a requirement that the communication needs to be done in Finnish language. Same thing when we had a project to Sweden. Swedes can do English also really well. But our client, we were dealing directly with the public authorities in Stockholm, and there was really a requirement to speak Swedish. So then we did all our official communication in like a poor Swedish language. But then when that was done, then it was done in English. So really those are a little bit like ways around. But yes, sometimes there has been clients saying, but those are every now and then we have other people to cover that.
Talking with Heidi Peck from Futurist, she was in our previous session on diversity. She also mentioned this, that when Futurist does a project with the public sector, that's when it becomes difficult to use English. So I am perceiving a cognitive dissonance between a national message saying we need international talent and then a public sector that makes it difficult for it to integrate because of language requirements. So I'm just going to park that for now because we're not the three to solve this problem, but I think it's something that I'm going to be keeping my eye out on and seeing if I can influence. But if we get back to this particular topic, Rupesh, what's been your language experience at WSP?
I will say that I consider language as a challenge. And I think challenge is good in life if you want to grow. If you don't have challenges, you will be stagnated. So think in a positive mindset. And for us, as Matti Esko told that we do all the technical works that is in pretty English. But if there is some text or something like that, generally my colleagues, they help me around. Means like they ask me, and I generally go up as a proactively and then ask him like, can I write like this or what is there? So they help me a lot. So I think you have to be like very proactive in your work when you're working with language also. So both the things works nicely. And as in tackling with this barrier, I think I have to raise my level so that I can join that one, and also my team is also helping me to come to that level. So it is going very good now. We are doing so many projects with India and with Finland, so it's very going good with language. So I don't think it's a big barrier, but it's a challenge, and you should take it as a like challenge as a positive sense in thriving or in growing further. Yes. And yes.
I'm just imagining it must take a bit of confidence to ask your colleagues to give you that little extra help.
Yes, actually it is. I have seen here, it's not even like it, I think it's not a barrier, because our lot of meetings generally they held in English, so that is not a problem. But some of the corporate big meetings are in Finnish, so I have seen it here. Like my colleagues are so supportive. Like I don't have to ask them. Means like, hey, can you explain me what does this part says? Generally they ping me, and then they ask me like, hey, did you understood this part? It was like little important. So they are also coming up to help me, and this is how it works. Means I also ask, and they also just come forward and did you understood that part? That is really important for us, like this. So it has happened with me like couple of times, so I'm like really amazed with that type of collaboration together. Yes.
Oh, that sounds like I'd almost label that empathic listening.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes.
they're listening from your point of view as well. That I wonder if.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Matti Esko, do you have any thoughts at this point relating to language that you'd like to share?
Yeah, still a little bit like we are, for example, we're structural engineers, and sometimes I hear people saying that, what about like if there's something, critical thing on the construction site that they want our advice, like you usually ask for an engineer. They don't speak English on the construction site. I'm sure they do. I mean, most of the workers are there. I mean, if the work leader there can talk English with his staff, I mean, why couldn't he do it with Rupesh or any of our staff here? So those are really just minor things in everyday life, but there are ways around that. So
that also touches on confidence, doesn't it? The willingness to speak, even though English, for example, even though you don't feel that good at it. And I guess that there are lots of ways to think through that one, and one is to focus on the purpose of communication of the language, which is to communicate, and you don't have to be grammatically perfect to communicate.
I would like to add one more thing here. Like, for example, there is different ways of learning any skills or something. Either you just read it or you listen it. So what happens, like nowadays it is very less because everyone is working from home. But I have experienced myself in companies when two persons behind your back or something, they're talking about their problems in project. So you actually listen to them and then you learn. That's what I think, that is why language is important. And on the other hand, you can learn those things, and sometimes it has seen in groups like this that if someone cracks a joke, and it's not good to ask like, can you explain the joke? So you have to also think in that manner also, that you can understand the joke, and also you can understand the important things what is going on around the project, so you can learn and also you can enjoy that life. So I think this is one of the things we should keep always positive mind in learning language, so that we can grow. So that is the all thing together. And I think I haven't imagined that before when I was joining WSP, but I was really surprised here. Means when I came and when everything is working so nicely, and I'm touchwood, I'm getting all my support from my colleagues. Yes. Yes.
So Matti Esko, I hope this isn't a horrible question, but what's stopping you from just switching internal materials and big meetings to English?
Yeah, well, I guess still probably the step wouldn't be that big, but I think still. Yeah. Okay. And in that sense, I can think that like we're a big company. We're actually a global company, but we have a local presence, and I think somehow still that local presence means that here in Finland we still do the things mostly in Finnish language. But as you say, that could be done. But
I can see you beginning to think about it.
Yeah, it's not my decision on that level, but that.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll leave that question in a sort of creative tension hanging there. I just was going to say to someone who's listening in called Melissa, I think if you wanted to chip in with some information about ELU Finnish language support info, then you'd be welcome. I'm going to give you a few seconds to decide if you're going to do that or not. La la la. I think she's not there anymore. So we're going to carry on with our conversation. And in terms of advice, now we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of a listening Finnish company. Language internally is Finnish. Don't have any people who don't speak Finnish, thinking that maybe you will, because actually you can't find the talent you need internally. You might have missed your moment, but let's see. Stay there. What advice would you, Matti Esko and Rupesh, have for such a company in relation to language? Thinking of hiring a non-Finnish speaker, it'll be your first one. How should you get ready for it?
Matti, you want to go first?
Yeah, well, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I mean, language is such thing that can be handled, and nowadays there are great tools to help with translating. I mean, we used to have non-Finnish speakers already over 10 years ago. Yes. Actually, maybe even more than now, and even back then we were able to solve all the problems. And nowadays, like all the translation tools and such things, they are already working so well. So my advice is just that don't be afraid, and rather look at the real substance skills, and
good.
Not really the language.
Yes, and I would like to add, I completely agree on Matti Esko's point that don't be afraid, keep open mind. And second thing I would like to give is be proactive, because you have to work together. So sometimes you should go ahead and generally what I do here is, if there is small document in Finnish and which I have to send it to India, it should be in English. So I ask them, can you give it to me? I will do it for you, so that at least I will learn Finnish. So don't show some proactiveness, so that it doesn't feel like a burden in changing everything, and it goes smoothly, so that you also learn and you can give a helping hand. So a proactive approach is also required. Yes.
I'm wondering whether it might also be a good idea to let your people know that a non-Finnish speaker is coming, so they can be ready to support, because it might be that they don't support because they don't know.
Yes.
Meli, would you like to just share a few words on the resources for those who want to learn Finnish?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the great discussion, Matti Esko and Rupesh. And I think this is a really nice example that you're sharing with us. And I think in the chat also, it has been already mentioned, but I think it's good to sort of say it out loud as well, that there is this workplace Finnish and Swedish support available. So there are public funds that are available for learning the language on the job. And we have Päivi Moilanen is today with us here, or you can find her here on the Pohjois-Savo ELU Center booth. So she has more details about how this kind of support is practically available. And I will also share one link in the chat box to TE Office website, where there is information about this, how it works to get or maybe Satu, who is moderating the chat, could find the TE Office link to share in the chat box. So there is support available, and if now that I got the stage for a few minutes, there was a comment earlier in the previous session about, whose responsibility it is to tackle this language issue. And I think this is a good case with WSP that I don't think there is a one-size-fits-all solution, because in the end, the language issue is also always about a dialogue and a joint kind of like agreement. How do we communicate with each other? And there are different sort of aptitudes for learning languages and so on. So I think just this attitude of wanting to make the effort to understand one another is key, and then the language things will follow.
Perfect. I'm going to have to wrap up because the next session is starting now. So I do want to say thank you, Melissa, for jumping with that information. Yes. Melissa from the city of Espoo, and Rupesh and Matti Esko. Very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.